Hello everybody. In this screencast we're going to talk about the UI slider. The UI slider is a very simple UI control also. It allows you to have a slider where by moving the slider using your finger or by swiping the slider you can change a value, change the progress of something. And it's a numerical, it creates a numerical kind of value. And let's have a look at it. So basically you go here and it's a slider, you drag and drop, and basically this gives you a slider. Let me just give it some constraints so that we can play with this. So basically I'll just put it some side constraints. Okay, I'll add these constraints, and then maybe I'll add a horizontal a vertical constraint. We're good to go. So basically we have the slider. Now when you run it, nothing special, it's just a slider which you can move right and left in this case. So basically let's see, here's my slider, I can move it right and left. Now there are some interesting things about that slider. A very important event is if its value changes. So basically if you go here and we connect it to our code, so now if I drag and drop, there is an action that's called if value changes. So basically you go here, value changed, on slider value changed. You can see here that the event is called value changed, connect, and it gives you a sender, which is any, I know it's a UI slider, all right, of type UI slider. I could go here and I could say print current value is sender dot value. So basically this gives me the slider current value, right? Boom, and I have my slider current value. Now if you run it, it will show a slider, and then when I start to move it, you can see that the values are changing. You can see that the values are changing even when I don't release. So I see I'm touching and moving, and then I released. So in that case you could see the values. Very nice. So this is the value of the slider. Other things you can do here with the slider, there are a lot of settings. What's the maximum value, what's the minimum value, and what's the current value. So basically let's say we make the current value 50 and we make the maximum value 100. So basically it goes from 0 to 100, and the current value, the starting value is going to be 50. Let's make it 20. All right, we run it now, and you will see that now the current value is at 20. As you move it, you see the numbers are going up, and then I reach the end, it's 100. I reach the left, it's a 0. So they are inclusive. The minimum and maximum are inclusive. Excellent. So another thing to look at is, or to consider, is something else, is this checkbox. So basically this checkbox, continuous updates. So basically what's happening is that as I am moving, the slider, the values are continuously changing, and then when I release, the value gets fixed on that value. So the events get triggered as you move the slider. What if I don't want to get these continuous events? So that's called continuous events. So if you look back here again, this is called continuous events. Now if you uncheck that box, what's going to happen is that you're not going to continuously get events. You'll only get the events when the user releases their button from the slider. It releases their finger from the slider. So basically they will, if you place your finger, do a change, when you release your finger, then an event is triggered. Okay, so you'll see that here. I'm running the app now with this box unchecked. Now when you run it, now we are at 25. Now let me see, I'm moving. See, I'm moving, nothing, I'm not getting any log events. I'm moving it, and then I release. You see the value now is 66. So you tend to get less events, but you get the last most important event when the user actually stops interacting with it. Okay, so that's something to look at. So now what if I have a label and I want to reflect that value into the label? Straightforward. I go again here, I'll get a label. I'll put the label here in my code, put the label here, give it some nice constraints. So there's a constraint, add the constraint, and then I'll go from here to here, just have the vertical spacing, and then that label is my value. I'll just drag it here, and I'll say current value label, and basically all I'm going to do is that I'm going to say that the current self dot current value label dot text is equal to sender dot value. All right, so now when I run this, all right, it's not happy because you cannot assign sender dot value. So basically I'll do string. I'll just need to cast it. All right, so I'll cast it to a string. All right, let's run it. And now you could see that when I move, the value changes. All right. Now, can I set the value to something to begin with? So yeah, of course. To set the value of the slider, I just need an instance of that slider. I need to drag and drop the slider. And then I'm going to have an outlet. I'll call my slider. All right. And I could come here and I could say my slider dot value. Okay, I could set the current value. I could set the current value by saying value equals, and I just give it a value. I want it to be 375. Okay. All right, so now it's going to be 75 to start with. Okay, go run it. And the value is 75. Excellent. All right, now I drag it more to the right, and you can see that the value now is 86.3. Very straightforward, and it is a very useful UI component that you could use for numerical values to get some numerical input from the user. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.